Cookie Cutter is a game that made me cry, which is an impressive feat considering it's a 2D hand-drawn Metroidvania, and it's very, very gay. So today I want to talk about the story and my thoughts. If this is your first time here, hello! I am Hannah, or Angrily Ooze. I like to make video essays about random games that live rent-free in my brain. So if you like that kind of thing, consider, subscribing, ringing that bell, doing all the really cool stuffs. I'd appreciate it a lot. The game is set in a very distant future on the Megastructure. The Megastructure being what looks like a giant man-made planet built around the Void. There is a big evil bad guy called Salem Garbanzos. He was able to reach the core of the megastructure and came back with incredible power, knowledge, and technology. He announced that anyone who he considered worthy would be able to live forever by putting themselves into a robot body, these being Denzels. All of this has happened over 200 years ago. Since then, no one had reached the core of the structure. Alarmingly, the Denzels were not what was promised. They became a workforce, slave labor for the noble corporation. We get this nice little intro showing Cherry being brought into this world. Cherry being the character you play as throughout the game. She was created by a brilliant engineer called Shinji, who had run away from the Infinite, the company behind the Denzels. There's also a little hint that they fell for each other. Lesbians. Sadly, this isn't a love story, because one day the Infinite came for them. In a brutal scene, we see Cherry get minced up. There's honestly no better way to describe it. The gameplay begins with a very badly beaten Cherry, crawling on the ground, shouting for Shinji. She's missing an arm, one of her legs is half gone, with only the other hanging on by a few cables. Her organs are hanging out, her face is being ripped off. I was really not expecting the game to start off like this. It's genuinely mental in such a metal way to start out a game, especially with the detail of the animation. The art is brutal, and I love it! Give me more! You crawl over to see Shinji, Salem, and the PP Heads. That's literally their names, but we'll be talking more about them later on. And yeah, they're known as the PP Heads because I can't say their actual name because YouTube seems to really dislike me swearing. Thanks, YouTube. Swearing is part of my vocabulary as a British person, I think you'll find. Don't know what that accent was, but we're gonna ignore that for now. You beg Salem to let her go, but he tells the PP Heads to just dispose of you. You repress some memories, and 2 weeks later, you wake up from a nap. Because androids do dream of more than just electric sheep. You wake up talking to a person called Raz, who promised Shinji to take care of you if anything happened to her. He asks if your nap jogged any memories about your primary function. Strange, I wonder what you might have forgotten. This is where we're introduced to another character, Regina. I can't with this! She literally looks like a
Bloppers.
Her name is Regina, and she is located between Cherry's legs. Of course it's intentional, and I love it so much. It's brilliant. I keep giggling at it. I'm sorry. I also noticed the voice actor for this character sounds like they're from the north, and genuinely I just love that. Just big up British voice actors who aren't from London. We need more diversity since, there's only about 40 different dialects across the entirety of the UK. Going back to Regina. Okay, I'm gonna have to start calling her Regina now. I can't. I'm sorry. I don't actually know if her name's supposed to be pronounced one or the other. I'm gonna have to start calling her Regina because I just keep giggling at Regina. I'm so immature. Genuinely. Regina informs you that you're firing on all cylinders and Cookie Cutter is fully active. She said the thing, guys! She did it! Raz genuinely seems like a chill dude. Probably because he's one of the few people in this game that doesn't want to unalive you. But he asks you to go and grab his backpack. And your reaction is just perfect. Just watch this.
Fine, you big baby. I'll squash the scary bugs for you. I'll be back before you get hungry.
This is the tutorial area. I just want to point out that I love the game design. It's genuinely fantastic. The movement feels so fluid and it's so easy to learn. The tutorial section ends and you find Raz's bag and you're able to return it to him. This is where you have full reign over the game and can do whatever you would like. So it's time to go exploring and unalive a lot. The rest of the game is going through these huge mazes, chewing bubblegum and kicking butt. But the bubblegum doesn't respawn, but the butt for you to kick does. Depending on what sort of an experience you want, you could go around farming enemies, grabbing loot, and finding all the abilities. From the loot, you can then buy your upgrades, which will make your weapons hit harder, increase your health, and plenty of other things. The combat was a nice challenge. I found that every time I got used to a certain enemy type, I would get very confident with my parry skills and fighting style, and then suddenly the game would just humble me with a few new enemies. Or worse, the boss fights. The boss fights in this game are fantastic. I found the best way to beat each boss was to just watch how it would attack and then spend the next 40 minutes or so somehow forgetting all of these patterns and being unalive to it until I just won somehow. Pro gamer right here. There are 6 bosses in this game. The Lost Guardian,
Alteca,
Bakasura, PP Heads, Puanani, and Salem's Mech. Remember those upgrades from earlier? Would be a shame if you forgot that they were a thing until the fight with the PP Heads. Make sure you utilize the upgrades, otherwise this game can become Dark Souls 2D edition. Trust me, I know. But I digress, let's talk about each of the bosses. The Lost Guardian is the first boss you find. They seem to only really have one big attack, but they're very easy to dodge, and only have 400 health. 400 health might sound like a lot compared to Cherry's 100, even more so when the bosses all hit so much harder than Cherry, but they only get more tanky from here. Next we have
Alteca,
Cherry calls this a floating garbage disposal. Sort of rude to do this to Danny DeVito.
Frank, what the hell are you doing, man?
That's my character. I'm the trash man. I come out, I throw trash all over the ring, and then I start eating garbage.
I found this level harder than I probably should have, with the lasers at the bottom of the room deleting my life more than the actual boss. The actual boss has 4 main attacks. The targeted missile, which are just missiles that target you. A giant laser beam, stolen straight from most superhero movies. A missile circle attack, where it just shoots missiles from everywhere in a circle. For some weird reason, I found that specifically to be really hard to dodge. I don't know why. Just a circle that just goes outwards just threw me off a lot. Everything else I could dodge. Finally, superheated mode, where you just don't really want to give the boss a hug unless you like the smell of burning hair, flesh, and robot parts. Basically, you just want to run away from this, but I mention all of these different attacks because it gives the boss a wide variety of ways to mince you up. And in my run, this dude really messed me up. Not to mention the stupid laser beam. I just kept jumping into it by accident, so I ended up with a disadvantage. A real game journalist move, if you will. Bakasura is a mental looking boss. Like, just look at his design. Dude is mental. Before starting the fight, Cherry comments that her insides are on fire. Bro, did you eat my Nong Sim Shin ramen noodles? They set everyone's insides on fire, but they taste so good. So you just can't stop eating them. It's honestly a really bad trap to fall into. Don't buy these noodles unless you want an unhealthy addiction to noodles. Or maybe that's just me with noodles in general. I don't know. Bakasura has 5 attacks. A punch, which you can actually parry. They also like to uppercut you and do the big jump on you. Very Mauga from Overwatch of him. Although one of these is an overpowered boss that will curb stomp you, and the other is Bakasura. I say that, and Mauga just got nerfed like the other day, and I want to keep that joke in. Of course, with the giant mouth, this boy has the big chomp, which deals an insane amount of damage. Do not let this man chomp on you.
Don't have
Chomp.
because you will get pregnant and die. Okay, everybody take some rubbers.
Finally, he wanted to ask if you could hold his hoops, because long-range attacks are always fun. I love it when I get this in my boss fights. I'm not terrible at avoiding projectiles. I have no idea what you mean. I didn't think I had a break from flying damage hurtling its way towards my face or anything. So anyways, remember those PP heads from the start of the game? I wonder what they're up to. Oh, beating my face, and yeah, that'd do it. I have some visceral hatred for these men. Up until this point in the game, I had been chilling and only dying like, every 5 minutes. But that was all about to change, with these two kicking my butt for a solid 30 minutes. And then I decided it was bedtime since it was like 3 AM when I was playing this game. I came back the next day and it was farming time. I was running around trying to see if I could get some upgrades, and I was able to get Cherry up to that sweet 150 health. Oh, life was good. And then it was time to get decimated for another 20 minutes. But I was able to beat them. But Hannah, what makes the PP heads so hard to fight? Well, not only are there 2 different bosses with 500 health each, they both hit like a freight train, meaning that a normal human might unalive in 1 hit, but an android might be able to survive 2. So it's very important that I found the best way to survive boss fights was to get some light attacks in to charge up your void and then heal Cherry with it. However, you have to stand still to regen health, and when the PP heads can hit you from long and close range, you can't really heal at all in this entire boss fight, which you're able to do in almost all the other boss fights. So this really upped the difficulty for me personally. Puanani is certainly one of the most bosses of all time. Considering we only have 1 more boss, which is Salem. Who could have seen that coming, right? I found Puanani to be the hardest boss in the game. I would call her a Gloppers, but that's basically her name. After all she really wants to do is scissor you. I'm not joking, she literally breaks the primary school rule of don't run with scissors. Puanani, did you never get taught this in year 1? At the start of the fight, she calls you babe and says she'll cut you down. And all I can say is, she can cut me down any day. I'm okay with this. I need to learn how to not simp for like half the characters that are trying to kill me in every video game ever. Unlike the other bosses, and I'm not going to explain all of her attacks because they do feel very samey with the exception of her targeting and throwing herself into you. The important thing is she is really, really annoying to fight. And it made me question my life choices. I genuinely took a day away from fighting her to grind the game like I did with the PP heads. I ran around the map looking for other abilities, talking to NPCs, making them all live at the diner with me, but most importantly, upgrading my year-end stats. It was finally time to fight her again, and I unalived. Again. And again. And again. I think I spent close to 2 hours fighting her, but I have no concept of time, and according to my mates in the Discord call, the final showdown actually only lasted 15 minutes. But I did it! So it was time for the gory animation. I was prepared to watch her get ripped apart, maybe even explode. After all, these are some amazing finishing moves that are in the game. Honestly, like, the animation and art. But we'll be getting into that later because honestly, it needs its own section. However, instead of any messed up finishing move, Cherry did the most disgusting, beyond vile attack anyone could ever do. She slapped Puanani. Just full slap. How dare she? Bro, I can't laugh at my own script. So anyways, you and Puanani become allies, although she does kind of want to fight you, and she can fight me in a different way. Hey, Future Hannah stepping in here just to say a massive thank you to Grim and the Rodent Elf for purchasing some microphone and other upgrades for the channel. It means so much. If you would like to show this kind of support as well, please consider purchasing something from my wish list. Link in description. At last, the moment we've all been waiting for though. The big fight with Salem himself. But before getting into that, I want to talk about the Golden Tower. This place was hell. I mean insta-unalive spikes that give 9,999 damage, literally over 9,000 damage every single time. Enemies that liked to kick you into those unalive spikes that again give you 9,999 damage. Oh, and of course, you have to rely on the slingshot ability, and if you fall, you hit the spikes that give 9,999 damage. Did I mention the spikes give 9,999 damage? They are awful. Genuinely, this part was so hard. There are less enemies scattered around, but you'll probably unalive here more than the rest of the game because of these spikes. There were other sections within the game that had these sorts of spikes. They looked slightly different. They're pink instead. And I just said no. I just gave up on those sections because I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't tolerate my way past the 9,999 damage spikes. This entire level is covered in them. There is a massive elevator that takes like a minute for you to get all the way up to the top. And unlike the other maps, this one feels very linear, so you have to go in one direction specifically. But just due to how far away I thought the boss was, and with how many spikes there had been at that point, I was very close to just... no. You get to the top floor, you get past the rebels fighting and Puanani kicking butt up there, you continue down the corridor and burst through the door to find Shinji. Regina, Shinji, and Cherry have a back and forth. Shinji has some major injuries, including an infection caused from all the internal bleeding. Shinji is able to tell Cherry that she needs to remember and follow her mission of protecting the Red Seed, which is inside of her head. All the while, Cherry is pleading with Regina and Shinji to bring her home. They can somehow find a way to do it and rest Shinji back to good health. Cherry asks if it was her fault, and just as she asks, Shinji passes away. So, who's chopping onions in here? I was expecting this to be like Super Mario Bros. Situation, you know, you keep fighting a bunch of dudes and eventually you get to the big bad guy and, you know, you bring the damsel home, but instead Shinji passes away. Unlike me, who wants to curl up and cry, Cherry says that she just can't handle this pain. It's too much. She has some bones to shred. Time for the final boss. Salem has 6 attacks. The slippity slap. Salem literally just gives you a slap. The shotgun spread. He has a gun with enough splash damage, it would make a mini nuke blush. Shotgun spread, more like shotgun super spread. Yeah, that's literally what my script says. The step on me daddy. I think Salem has been on TikTok for a little too long, you know, because he thinks you want to be stepped on, when in reality, I did not consent, and I'm even more concerned now by the white liquid tanks in the mech suit. I'm hoping that's just milk, Salem. Say that's milk right now, please. Big beam. This is the close range attack. You need to stay away unless you want to watch your health bar leave to buy milk that Salem might then put into his mech suit. The BFG division, nope, that's Doom. The BFL division. He has a big freaking laser. Literally, that's all this says. It go kaboom. Legalized nuclear bombs. This attack is so frustrating. After understanding what it does, I only unalived once to this attack. But that was enough for me to hate this attack with the passion of 1,000 burning nuclear bombs. Salem basically starts a countdown, which will take 180 health. No matter where you are, you just disintegrates. In order to stop the countdown, you need to sprint your tiny robot butt over to him and deal enough damage for Senpai to notice you. I hate this attack. I respect it, but I hate how much health it takes. Back to the actual attack, you finish Salem off by making sure he cannot reproduce and sending him into the center of the megastructure. Seriously, this must be the most dramatic and painful bottom surgery I have ever seen. You bring Shinji home with the golden tower burning ablaze. You wake up back at the diner talking to Raz. He asks about how you're doing and you genuinely don't know The unaliving of a loved one will do that to you. Things can only get worse from here, I guess. Raz tells you that the red seed is consuming your core structure. Your body is going to break under the strain. Removing the seed now will just unalive you outright. You have up to a year left with this seed in your mind. We should really call this a relic. Red seed, more like red relic. Aha, it also has some nice alliteration. You pay your respects at Shinji's grave. The whole gang is there, from Puanani to the weird skeleton man, who I actually forgot to mention and probably lives in competitive game lobbies, never being able to hold a proper conversation with a woman without harassing them. Go play the game if you want to see what I actually mean. I've not spoken about any of the NPCs for a reason. Go play the game. Trust me, it's worth it. You take a nap in order to remember what happened. You see your past self talking to Shinji, having a very heated conversation. It's giving the trolley problem. Imagine there's a runaway train bearing down a track with 5 people tied to it. You could switch the track to save those people, but a loved one is on the other. Shinji wants to switch the track to hit her. Cherry is getting frustrated that Shinji wants to save the world rather than to be with her. Shinji then drops that she's actually been sick this entire time and has just been slowly dying. Cherry then asks why Shinji even bothered to create her if Shinji was just going to unalive this whole time. More importantly though, Shinji tells you your primary function. You need to bring the red seed back to its proper place, in the center of the megastructure. So we just went all the way to the top of the megastructure to go all the way back down and into the core. You announce it's time to go to the megastructure and the credits roll. But it's not over yet, everyone. Earlier in this game, I found this weird machine, but you didn't know what to do with it, so you just sort of left it. We get a post-credit scene. A mysterious Denzel pops out and says the rebirth process is complete. Which brings a sort of important question to mind. Is a perfect copy of your mind, consciousness, etc. basically pasted into a robot classified as you, or would your brain physically be needed to be put into the robot body for it to still be classed as you? I don't actually have the answer to this question, especially because I just wanted to make a short little video today, but let me know what you think in the comments. A little off script again for the billionth time. You know how I mentioned earlier I thought it was going to be like a Mario Bros situation, you know, you get Peach, you bring the damsel home. So the robots are called Denzels. Shinji is now a Denzel. So all I'm saying is, you beat the bad guy, saved the day, and brought the Denzel home instead. I just like what they did there. I need to simp over the art in this game. It's absolutely phenomenal. The animation is so smooth, especially considering it's hand-drawn. I think the imagery at the start of the game with Cherry crawling on the ground really shows the detail. It's so grotesque, and I just want Cherry to be okay. All of the finishing animations for each enemy type is so different and unique, with all the bosses having their own custom animations really shows the detail that has gone into this game. You can really tell the devs put their hearts and souls into this game, and it's paid off to say the very least. I really enjoyed going through each of the environments and seeing what was in the background in certain places, with the foreground changing in each world setting. It's so beautiful, honestly. The characters all look so unique and interesting. I genuinely cannot get over the PP heads. We've combined my immature humor with a brilliant design. It's so good. Cherry, of course, looks great. She looks so adorable at the start of the game, and it just goes so unhinged so quickly, which tracks so well with the story. One thing that I don't understand, however, is Regina's design. Of course, she looks like Lady Parts. However, she wasn't designed to be there. Originally, she was her own unique robot. Of course, she could have just been inserted into Cherry. However, that brings up more questions, such as the Denzel's anatomy. Or does that mean that Shinji added this as a custom feature? Which, if she did she always plan on getting it on with Cherry? But at the start of the game, she said that it wasn't planned. I have questions. They don't matter or impact on the game. I just have questions. I wish we saw Shinji some more. I wanted to draw some fan art of the game, and originally I wanted to include Shinji. However, I couldn't find enough reference to confidently draw her as well. Puanani's design, I'm sorry, I still can't get up her name. I love her hair. She's clearly punk rock and plays in a band, and I would definitely simp for her if she were a real person. I'm already simping for her, even though she isn't even real. Genuinely, my only issue with her is just how she shouts during every attack. It frustrated me a little bit, but that's just my autisming. So it doesn't matter. The map design is brilliant. I honestly thought this game would originally have been only like 2 environments outside of the safe zone due to how big they are, but the map slowly grew and intersected with itself, so it was fairly easy to explore and move around, especially with the teleporters. Oh, and speaking of the teleporters, the animation that plays every time is brilliant. I cannot get over this animation. It is so good. The UI for this game is fantastic and fits so well. The whole design of this game seamlessly flows together. I cannot praise the devs enough for this. The overall design and care and effort that's been put into this is amazing. It's truly incredible. I cannot wait to see everything or anything that the developers for this game come up with next. I am so excited. Little side note, because for some reason I didn't write this down in my script, the music that plays in this game as well is really cool. I'm not sure if I can play any of it because YouTube is YouTube, but if I can, I'm gonna play some here. Sadly, I don't think any game is free of flaws, but thankfully there isn't much for me to talk about here. First things first, the voice acting is brilliant, but it's only included at the start of the game. I wish the acting was included at the end of the game, and maybe even whenever talking to the bosses, but it does just abruptly end. Would you look at that? The publishers for this game have made a poll asking if people would like the voice acting to be throughout the entire game. So this is probably going to be added soon, and I cannot wait for it. Considering how beautiful this game is, it's a real shame for me to mention that the parry mechanic here I found to be a little inconsistent at times. Timing and the purple indicators to when I needed to press the parry seemed to change depending on the enemy. I hit a point where I was able to confidently parry certain enemies, but other enemies I would just give up on and just dodge them. I'm glad the option for both is there, and the dev did even mention on Twitter that you don't have to parry. It's not a game-ending issue, but it is a little bit of a shame. Bonus section, since, you know, I wrote the script, edited about 97% of it, and decided to add another part, so hopefully this is coherent. Since I'm as smooth as sandpaper, not to brag or anything, I slid into the Twitter account DMs for Cookie Cutter, meaning I was able to ask some deeply important questions, such as how many people worked on this game. It actually only started out with 4 people and grew to 14 people, which for a project of this size is insane. The game was in development for 6 years total, but only became a team of 14 after around the 4 years of development mark, which again is insane, but it's part of the reason why I love indie devs so much. Even with the smallest of teams, they're able to create such brilliant experiences. The game's development is absolutely wild, with a song that I was not expecting to hear.
You have run out of credit.
Stop doing that! F*** Jesus!
I would massively recommend watching this video about the development. It's fantastic. I'll link it up here and in the description. So next, I was curious about the core inspirations, which is a mix of 90s mangas, TV shows, and the vision was inspired by music, which includes Castlevania, Symphony of the Night, Blame, The Prodigy, The Offspring, all the new metal, all the punk rock music, XL Saga, and Odin Sphere. No wonder I love this game. It's inspired by manga and my music taste. I think you can sort of see the inspiration coming through. However, I feel like there's no other game like Cookie Cutter. From the humor to the music to the phenomenal art, there is nothing out there quite like this. But finally, I had to ask the most important question. Are there any talks about a DLC? And the answer is yes. I am so excited. I genuinely don't know how to articulate the hype that I have for this. And whenever it comes out, I'm gonna have to cover it. I can't wait to see what happens next with Cherry, and I really hope that we get more with Shinji. because I like the lesbians, okay? If you couldn't tell, this game isn't just style over substance or anything like that. There is so much going for this game. If I haven't convinced you already, please just go grab this game. It's on Steam and current gen consoles. You'll be supporting a fantastic indie developer that clearly care for this project, so there are only positives here. And not to mention, I purposely haven't mentioned a lot of things that are in this game, such as the flashbacks and all of the NPC interactions. That's so you can experience them yourself. I don't want to spoil that kind of stuff. Yes, I spoiled the ending, but you need to go play this game so you can find out those interactions for yourself. I'm so excited for a DLC or a sequel game. I want to know what happens next with Cherry. And honestly, if the devs decided to make a webcomic, a graphic novel, a cartoon, or just anything, I would eat that up in a heartbeat. I need more content of these characters. Literally anything. Give. Please. And devs, if you're watching this, please, I beg of you, make more content. I need more content. And also, if you need a voice actress who you can literally pay in spicy seafood noodles, hit me up. I'm not joking. I like noodles. I like doing silly voice acting things. Such a cheeky little
Ploppers.
Thank you so much for making it all the way to the ending. What did you think of this game? Did you find the story interesting? Are you also hyped for a DLC or a sequel? Let me know in the comments. And speaking of comments, please leave a rainbow emote if you got all the way here. It means a lot to know that somebody has been able to sit through me waffling for however long this video was. Take care, and maybe I'll see you next time. Bye.